National Economic Council appeals to organized labor to shelve its proposed industrial action.
Kaduna State Election Tribunal upholds election of Governor Uba Sani.
And Burkina Faso's leaders foil attempt arrest, 4 as 2 escape.
And good morning, Nigeria. This Friday, we shall review the just concluded 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
All right, so the week-long 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly has come and gone, of course, with many good moments, but specifically for us here in Nigeria, from President Tinubu's speech to his meetings with other global political and business leaders, including meetings of the members of the Nigerian delegation to their annual meetings, it was positive outcomes.
Now, the president's speech raised the need for global institutions and other nations to see Africa as a priority. His affirmation of democratic governance as the best guarantor of sovereign will will emphasize that global leaders should address challenges posed by violent extremism, problems of illicit mining, and pilfering by extra-African powers and companies, as well as the threats posed by climate change, all that still resonate across global fora.
Indeed, Kieran, and there were also engagements with global figures and institutions which also shaped Nigeria's outing at that General Assembly known as UNGA this year. Now, President Tinubu had engagements with a number of world leaders, and including the presidents of the European Union, Commission, Brazil, and South Africa. The United Nations Deputy Secretary General, our own, of course, Dr. Amina Mohamed was also there. Chairperson of the African Union and President of the Union of Comoros Island, President Azali Assoumani. And so many others, Kieran.
Oh, exactly. You know, that's a world gathering. Now, these engagements with world leaders initiated several bilateral agreements expected to shape Nigeria's future relations. On the economic front, an aggressive agenda to attract investment was also evident in the meetings between President Tinubu and global leadership of transactional firms, African business leaders at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and others.
Yes, and our own First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, was also at UNGA, and now at the sidelines events, she drew attention to gender actions for peace, specifically at the Africa First Ladies Peace Mission.
All right, and other gains from UNGA included strengthening bilateral ties between Nigeria and Belarus when the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Toga, met with his Belarusian counterpart, as well as a UN Support for Poverty Alleviation Trust Fund secured by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Bete Edu. All these added great gains to Nigeria's outing at the 78th United Nations General Assembly. And inform our first topic on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Indeed, and also not to forget that what all that we have said so far matters is how it impacts on the average Nigerian, how that translates to poverty alleviation, addressing the so many humanitarian issues that we have, and other economic challenges. But also on the program this morning, we'll be taking a look at some developments within the past week on the social media, and that will be the prompt for our conversation. And we have captioned it, Impact of Social Media on Our Local Products, Local Food Items, Local production. That will be our second topic, and we'll be having, of course, a guest to share perspectives on this with us. So let me warmly, this very cold morning here in Abuja, welcome you to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Should I say Good Morning Nigerians? I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Rasak, and it's Friday's edition.
Oh yeah, and it's a wet morning here in the capital city of Abuja. My name is Kirian Umar. I also welcome you to the show today. This is Friday's edition of the program, and as a matter of fact, the last edition for the week. And we are reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. And in the course of our show today, we'll bring you the usual segments that will make today's package, which will include, of course, the highlights of the news coming very shortly, newspaper review, business news, sports, and foreign news. We'll have time to accommodate all that. For now, let's engage Olajide Bello, who is our guide on today's morning news. Hello, Olajide Bello.
Good morning, Claire and Kirian. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. The National Economic Council has appealed to members of the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress to shelve their proposed industrial action and embrace dialogue, considering its implication on the economy. This is part of the resolutions made at the end of the 136th meeting of the Council, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the Presidential Villa.
We also believe that Mr. President will be addressing the nation 1st October, and some of the concerns of labor will be appropriately addressed in the President's speech.
The meeting agreed that there should be vigorous implementation of key resolutions in collaboration between the states and federal government.
The Nigerian Army has apprehended the district head of our local government in Nasarawa State after a raid on his residence. Weapons recovered in the sting operation were SMG, G3 and FN rifles with several rounds of ammunition. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Boba, announced this at the news conference in Abuja. Kaduna State's Governorship Election Tribunal has upheld the election of Governor Ubasani as duly elected governor of Kaduna State. Achari Maxwell reports that it was a split judgment, as 2 out of the 3 judges also ordered supplementary elections in 22 polling units in 7 wards of 4 local government areas where elections were cancelled. The National Coalition Against Terrorism has drawn the attention of the federal government and security agencies to ensure reinforcement of security agents in Kano State to foil any attempt by aggrieved supporters against the New Nigeria People's Party to breach the existing peace in the ancient commercial city. The group was reacting to statements by some stalwarts of the party following the outcome of Governorship Election Tribunal sitting in the state. The coalition urged the aggrieved parties members to stop threatening judges that committed themselves in dispensing justice based on substantiated evidence before the court and be civil by seeking redress in the appellate court. The body commended President Tinubu on the recent diplomatic shuttles to woo investors into the country, and such evil plot, if allowed to prevail, is capable of undermining such lofty efforts of attracting business partners to grow the economy. Burkina Faso's Security and Intelligence Services says it has foiled a coup attempt. The country's military government alleged that the officers involved had planned to plunge the country into chaos and have been arrested while 2 are on the run. In a statement read out on television on Wednesday evening, the authorities said they are determined to safely lead the transition to democracy despite adversity and other various maneuvers to stop the government's inevitable march towards assumed sovereignty. The junta says elections will take place by July next year. It can be recalled it has been almost a year since the interim president, Captain Ibrahim Traore, seized power, and that was the country's second coup in 2022, which took place amid a growing Islamist insurgency that continued to derail Burkina Faso's stability. And that's the news for now. After this break, Claire and Kirian will take you through the rest of the program.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria this Friday, and again, it's a wet day here in Abuja. And so, labeling and packaging is still a challenge indigenous manufacturers would have to deal with. And that's our focus on Business News this morning.
In a bid to diversify the economy and drive sustainable growth, increase revenue sources, and create job opportunities in Nigeria, development experts are advocating for promotion of Nigerian products, especially edibles, in the global markets. One of such products is kilishi, a local delicacy made from beef that is gradually gaining international recognition. Traders in kilishi production in Nigeria says if the potential of the product is properly harnessed, it will boost local production, add value to the gross domestic product, and increase foreign exchange earnings.
My business is there for everywhere. So many people, kilishi. So it's there for everywhere for this world. You will see if you go London, Germany, America, any country when you reach, you will see kilishi.
It's very important. Many people they come by, they carry and go London. They carry and go American.
Government intervention and active participation by the private sector, which should include sophisticated technology to improve its quality, are what investment promotion experts says will take kilishi to the global markets.
We feel that if we put in more effort in packaging, labeling, more effort in standardization, quality, more effort also in export documentation, procedures and documentation, getting the exporters to know that we have to do the procedures the way it should be in order for export to work.
Research has revealed that globally, humans consume about 350 million tons of meat yearly. With Business News, Alika Opanachi, Arua.
Yeah, many thanks, Alika, for that business package. And next is a review of today's dailies.
And it's Friday, it's Friday, it's Friday. Chukwudi is here for the newspaper review. Chukwudi, good morning.
Where did you pick up that? It's Friday, it's Friday, kindergarten.
It's Friday.
Well, it has a childlike melody, you know. How are you, Kirian?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good morning. You look good.
You
Actually
look
swell.
Mm-hmm. You know, it reminds me of a kindergarten song, boys and girls come to school, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock is the hour of school, 8 o'clock in the morning, just to make sure that you get to school on time.
After so many years, you remember the lines like that.
Of course.
I'm not asking your age, though. Hello, Claire.
Hi,
Down to
Chukwudi.
business.
Okay, so let me punch on with the Punch newspaper this morning, and it has a bold headline: indefinite strike. Labour protest as FG threatens union leaders with contempt charge, and it's on page 2. It comes with 2 riders. Threats won't deter us. We are no cowards, says TUC VP. And the second one says, governors ask NLC to shelve strike. AGF says strike will be contempt of court. Okay, so you have it on the front page of the Punch, indefinite strike. And the picture you see on the front page there, of course, on your right-hand corner will be the Muslim faithful observing the Eid prayers, Eid Maulud prayers. And on the other hand, you find workers apparently protesting, or said Umahi locks out workers. Protesters cite hardship for lateness So these are workers locked out for coming late or going late to work. Other stories on the front page of the Punch this morning: confusion over Kaduna Tribunal ruling. APC, PDP claim victory. So who wins? It's on page 29. Now, hoodlums lynch Plateau commercial driver. Police arrest suspect. You can find that on page 4. FG targets wealthy Nigerians in new tax drive. Page 27. Let me take you just a little above the nameplate. Academic record. Atiku asks court to overrule Tinubu's objection. You can read that up on page 30. And telecoms plan different tariffs for calls, data in states. And CBN will spend $3 billion, I beg your pardon, $3 billion loan to stabilize economy. And that's according to NEC. I pass the button now to...
All right, yes, thank you, Claire. And let's turn to the Nation newspaper. Above the name flag of the paper, Tribunal dismisses PDP's petition in Kaduna pool. Governor, my election upheld, I scheduled to appeal. You get all that story on page 5. Now, Obaseki, I forgive Shaibu's aberrant behavior. Yes, Governor cautions deputies on page 6. Now, the lead story here says, government to TUC, NLC, respect court order, barring strike. All right, the AGF writes the unions, Falana, DSS, IG, NSA, it's a judicial terrorism, breach of rights, says Labour. Okay, it's on page 7. All for 63rd Independence Anniversary. Of course, that's a symposium to mark this year's Independence Anniversary. There you have a cross-section of Nigerian leaders. And below that photo story, there are other stories trending. How Southeast can overcome insecurity by governors, leaders. Unity, economic growth, very critical. Find out more on page 5. Financial reforms ready for unveiling, says Cardoso. Yes, get that on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Well, on independence, why Nigerians should collaborate with federal government. That's by Shetima, the Vice President of Nigeria. That story is on page 6. Now, Chukwudi, let's get to know what is in there for you today.
Yeah, yes. Yesterday, we didn't quite talk about the proposed strike action starting from, is the 3rd, isn't it? Yes, I think so. The thing is this, Labour and government have got to turn, not dangerous, let's not get sound extreme about it, a very intriguing, crossroads, so to speak. And one would like to caution the two sides to please bear in mind the full weight of the looming loss of productivity, in our various workplaces. Sometimes we take the strike lightly in these quarters because things seem to have gone errant, and sometimes it's as if the situation develops into a free-for-all. One of the things being talked about here, for instance, is that that's coming from the warning by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi-San, that the proposed strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC was in contravention of a subsisting court order restraining the unions from declaring an industrial action. Remember that the previous one they embarked upon was actually stopped halfway, and a court process had started. The president waded into it. They were almost arresting members of the union for violating a court order. The president said, no, look, in the spirit of negotiation, let's retrace our steps from this. Let's go back to the table and all that. So because there's now a reintroduction of a desire to embark on a strike, Fagbemi is reminding them that even that court order has not been vacated. But what I say in all of this is this. I would have loved a situation where, after the removal of the fuel subsidy, within about 1 month, you saw about 6 long buses on Kubwa Road, 6 brand new buses on Lugbe Access, 5 brand new buses on Kershi Access. Then the feeder roads that help some villagers bring food into Abuja see some grading. Now, the argument is going to be that various levels of government are responsible for this. For instance, the rural roads I'm talking about is not going to be a federal government matter. But when you have an ill wind that is not going to blow anyone any good, you collapse, you know, those distinctions and all that, really coordinate one another and get things done. Because that would help your argument when you would have eventually been confronted with the scenario of the workers still say, but you say, but we did this and we did that and all that. I don't know what left government a bit hamstrung on the matter, you know?
You know, after the warning strike, and, you know, it was hoped that issues would, you know, go smoothly. I mean, negotiations would go smoothly.
Yes.
And somehow we've seen that, at least from this warning, it didn't go that well. But this is not, again, the time, you know, to use threats of, you know, courts, you know, to kind of cow the unionists to, you know, chickening out and all that. It won't. These are unionists. No matter what you say, they will. I think this is a time, again, this word negotiations, you know, you must learn how to negotiate. You must learn how to parry.
I don't think any of them is a third line negotiation. Claire, this is what is happening. I'm not in government, but when things like this happen, you try to wear the other man's shoes, even though the shoes are not physically available. This is what is happening.
That's what I'm saying, and this is linked.
Labour is asking for, you know, a living wage. There must be a raise and all that. Government is coming from the background of, we're spending about 90% of resources coming to us just servicing debt alone. If you now add money, where is it going to come from? So the two of them are really in a quagmire. That's the way it is.
The more reason yes. Negotiation is inevitable. And again, that goes to the picture story I read on the front page of the Punch, talking about workers being shut out, you know, for coming late. Do you know how much it costs to get to work from as far as New Yanya? Do you know how much it gets to transport down to Abuja from Nasarawa?
I dare say I have a slightly different perspective to this. Okay. If you're going to come to work on Monday, I don't expect that the money that takes you to work on Monday is borrowed at 5 a.m. or 6. So please, my dear Claire, we should not.
Okay, can I just say something?
Please say something.
Let me say, I've had you.
Please say something.
I've had both of you now.
Yes, let me just say, it's not about the money.
Okay.
It's not about the money.
So what deters you from getting there?
It's about getting the transport.
See, excuse me, ahead, this is not an argument. See, life and living. You know, I mean, you have to be practical about it. Some people wake up without having 1 naira. Some come and stand on the road begging for a ride to get to work. It has to be stated.
So it's the ones that didn't.
I'm not justifying late. I'm not justifying late coming.
Nobody's justifying.
But when you don't have good transportation system, in a situation where people are hungry and cannot even afford to pay, and you cannot carry out extreme punishment, you can punish, but mildly, and get people, because people are not smiling this time around. So you don't have to be harsh on people. These are people who have families, who are people who depend on them, and what have you. And the issue of the strike you all mentioned, let me just touch it before you continue. Yeah. From what Labour received, from is an advisory from the AGF to say that what they're doing is illegal, is contempt of court, so to speak.
Because that order has not yet been
let me finish. Let me just finish. The NLC described the AGF advisory as judicial terrorism. What is terrorism? Now, from all indications, what they are trying to prove is the fact that what has led to this struggle they want to embark upon right now is not unconnected with the issue of removal of oil subsidy.
Chukwudi, I'm sorry.
I agree.
Yes, you don't have time to respond. We've run out of time, honestly. There are also other stories about people selling dead cow as roasted meat to customers, and a very, very wicked act, I must say. But please, let's take a short break for commercials. When we come back, we'll begin our conversation.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. Now, the impact of social media on local products is a topic we want to start with this morning for obvious reasons. And of course, we are focusing on Erisco Foods Limited, a manufacturing brand of food products based in Nigeria. And of course, he has responded to a Facebook post by one Chioma Egodi on the company's Najiko tomato mix, one of the company's 3 tomato paste variants. Now, Chioma had alleged that the product had an unhealthy amount of sugar and was not fit for human consumption. Erisco says her claims are untrue and unfounded and advises the public to disregard her claims. Now, joining us this morning for the conversation is Eric Umorfia. He is the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Erisco Foods. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, for a start, let's hear your story, really. I actually came across that on the internet a couple of days ago, and I came to the realization that you have been a local producer or manufacturer for a very long time, for over 4 decades. And personally, I wondered what really happened. So let's get to hear your own side of the story.
Thank you for NTA management for giving the opportunity to state my own position. Actually, Erisco Foods has been long a manufacturer in this country and the forefront of Made in Nigerian campaign beyond territory of this country. We've been campaigning, patronized Made in Nigeria, not only Erisco, but all Made in Nigeria. Even what government have been doing, I am doing it, including sending our signal to our campaign to CNN to tell the world we can produce what we can eat and everyone. And the Erisco Foods invested in this country, came back to invest here, not because of money only. I need money to operate, but for the fact that I want to create job for my people. I have more viable business in UAE and Angola, God knows. And for the fact that many of my people are not having work, I decided to help humanity because that is one of my calling. And unfortunately, since I can, the money, dollar equivalent I brought here 12 years ago, I can't get it now. So I'm losing money. However, we kept managing, telling our people, because of my stars, because of my customers, when we want to move, there's problem. Even some time ago, when I made up my mind to go, it was the former vice president as prevailed on me. The president said I should not go anywhere. I should please wait that things will be right. And that is, we're still waiting, I'm still waiting to make Nigeria to be good. Our product is the best in this country for now, by the grace of God. And we are doing well. So the importers that we fought some 10 years ago in banning the tomato, they now regroup, thinking that government have changed. They regroup to come back in many ways. And I want to tell you that is one of the things that triggered this syndicate. Because syndicate has no basis at all. And what she said, you didn't get it right. She said, my product is killing people. Unbelievable, and nobody will take it. I have to write a petition to government to support police to help to see if my brother is killing people, so I can be killed because I don't deserve to live. It's unfortunate that Nigerians, some Nigerians, not all, because most people are still believing us. Their email is trooping, telephone is coming. Yes, please don't be discouraged. They are fighting you to live, so that they can take over the Nigerian to kill them with a product they were bringing from China. Everybody knows that tomato imported in this country are not eaten in China. They export it, they don't eat there. And we asked the minister, one of their deputy minister then, when I went there with the President Buhari, and he said Nigeria is what the Nigerian want, they gave them, which is unfortunate. We made up our mind to contribute our own quota because nobody takes money to heaven. What we are here to do is to, whatever you can achieve to help humanity, that is what you are recording. I derive joy in helping humanity. That's why they announce you that our product is moving well. Nigerians are loyal to us. I thank all my customers, distributors, that have been patronizing us. And people see it as, this Erisco is doing too well than expected. Why must it be him? But Erisco himself is using the money, if any, this profit we made, to help humanity more. On this this issue, what is actually repeating itself is Mesoma and the JAM case, if you remember that case.
Yeah.
Mesoma accused, went to manipulate JAM system and get higher score. And came and said JAM is giving her small, is a higher scorer. And the whole world is bombarding JAM, bombarding JAM, bombarding JAM. Later, she confessed. In this case, that's what actually happened. This good wasn't my customer, wasn't my consumer.
Has she confessed?
Has she confessed? I have the letter here. She wrote and tender apology before they sent her elders from Nnewi. They prevailed on me to please tamper justice with mercy.
Okay, Chief. Let's so that we don't deviate from the focus. As you know, the adage that customer is always right. What exactly were her complaints, and what was your own grievance about the complaint?
Yes, I believe I agree with you, my sister. Customer is our strength. Number one, we revere our customers. We respect them a lot. Without customer, we can't be where we are today. But they are right. Does not mean when they are killing you, you still allow them to come and kill you and bury you. Then you'll be wrong in their grave. God will reject you because you have caused a lot of harm to yourself. What happened is that Chioma went to, so she claimed, and bought Najiko tomato paste, as she claimed, and went to test it and found out that the product is too sugary. She didn't stop out there. It's okay if they say it's review. I don't know what is review. Some people go to university but they don't have correct thinking. By saying review includes how many products that have been 10, 15, 20 years on existence. 15, I mean, 12 years now. Yeah. She went to harm her product because she was bought to do it, the harshest job. She complained it. She didn't end at that place. She went ahead and said, our product is killing people. Only God knows how many people were killed. Then when I said, look, when she was doing this one, we tagged her and said, we are a company with reputation. We have our image to protect. Please don't say that again. Then any person that say in support of Erisco, she will attack her. Any person that say in support of her, she will be happy. Then is that a review? Is that how a customer will be doing? So now, let me finish this section. When the product eventually, so she claimed, and public are supporting her on something that never happened. If you see the difference between tomato paste and tomato mix, all tomato mix worldwide has sugar content. We are being transparent in Erisco Foods. If you check the product, you see we declared it has sugar here. So if I say it has sugar, and you don't want to eat sugar, buy Erisco or Najiko that has no sugar as a raw material. This is meant because sugar is part of the prevention. Sugar is, we can turn this one to be ketchup. You can use it to eat bread like jam. It's clear there. And any mix you see in the market, check. There must be sugar. According to NAFDAC, I have my NAFDAC approval for it. And I have SON approval for it. So why is somebody decide this is a SON, this is a NAFDAC, notification of product registration. Nigerian tomato mix. The raw material is including sugar.
Erisco, I think you, based on what we know of Erisco products, you don't need to labor yourself much trying to explain to the level of NAFDAC number. You have passed that level when it comes to, production, local production.
Yeah, but
I know, from the point you are coming, I understand you, that some people, it's a harder job, like you said. But today, for me, I believe that they are popularizing the product. Because for me, I don't know about tomato mix before. I'm just learning it. And I know many Nigerians have just learned that tomato mix has sugar content. Yes. And it's specified.
Yeah.
So it's not a crime to do that. It's a world specification. Yes. So that's what we have learned from this. So what we are doing is not just trying to tell the public that somebody is working against your progress, but that, look, we're also learning about the product, which is, for me, primary. We need to produce what we eat. Now, what is your next line of action? This has happened. Have
please, excuse me, let me tell you, see the post the girl made.
Yes, because I was going to ask you whether it's the content of what she posted or that she posted it on social media.
No. Social media, we accept criticism to help us to improve more. That's why we're existing. We are here to help humanity. I want to leave this country better than what I met it when I go. So see her post. One of somebody told her, please help me to advise. See what's there. This is you're spoiling somebody's business and it's not good. She said, it's my brother. She said, please help me advise your brother to stop killing people with his product. Is it a good comment? This is criminal. By every standard, even if you do it in America, you go more than 50 years in America.
The issue now
is issue that made you to petition IG.
Yes, but there's also issue that you got her arrested and that was not the proper thing for your company to have done. What is the proper channel to make complaints?
Okay, now the proper channel to complain is that if she
can I say that?
If she was a customer as she claimed, there is a customers complaint unit of our company. There is a NAFDAC. There is a SON. There is police even. She can go to complain. But because she was paid to do that, she was very, very happy to spoil her. And people advise her, pull it down. You are killing somebody. She said, no, we are ready to go to court. So she's her bragged that she wants to take me to court for even cascading my product, for not doing anything. And who will take that type of insult? All her people she sent to plead for her, said, we can't take it because the businessman knows what he's doing. Okay, see what another one she said here. When somebody of all her attack dogs said, please, can we now spoil the product? She come and said, done already. Which means she's not a reviewer. She's a killer. She's a destroyer.
And you got her arrested. We understand she's been released.
Yes, I'm not a businessman. I sent the police the information, and police have to investigate, see it, and arrested her. When the police arrest, nobody stops bail. Nobody is against the bail. But we have to go and prove for police call her. We want to know how many people you know that have been killed for this product. Also, if actually she presents people to the police, is two ways. To later bring her to tell them how many people have been killed. Also, for them to investigate me. If my brother is killing people, I don't want jail. I should be killed. That's my position.
Okay, in all of this, Kiran, sorry, in all of this, what has been the roles of NAFDAC, FCCPC, and what do you intend
to SON to revalidate the product, to say, look, that this is wrong? Yes.
No, actually the NAFDAC and SON, they have good professionals there. I give it to them. They say they read in media. They come to our factory. I want to inspect. Is it not this factory that we have been inspecting? What happened? So they are on inspection now. They want to make their findings known. Then, if you get them, they will tell you their findings. We are hiding nothing. I want Nigerians to eat better.
Yeah.
And that they are fighting me in order to stop me from doing the right thing. But FCCPC, sorry. I don't know where they are going. I don't know what they are doing, because I invited them to when I was going for police to come and hear. They refused to go. And later I heard that they said they want to secure the bed of the lady, which is not correct. Actually, I never I never seen them. Both the others. You know what happened is that some of these government agencies, if they don't be careful, this will be a new trend to spoil investment in this country. Simple. Because how can an investor, over 40 years of my effort, over 40 years, somebody will come overnight and say, Erisco is killing people. And who will it? Okay, if any one of them, I say, you kill your mother and father on air. If you kill your mother and father, they will be happy. And I come back and say, no, you didn't kill again. It's too dangerous to cascate people. What I didn't do.
Yeah, Erisco. I think you're doing what you're supposed to do, but you have already, gotten over it. I know you intend to take her to court and all of that.
No, not only court. I'm pursuing the criminal aspect of it because she never did what to add. This is the letter she wrote. She pleaded with me, with the husband, knelt down, crying, like she didn't know what came over her.
Okay.
But Nigeria, the same Nigeria that was supporting her, didn't go. They kept calm now. Instead of going to beg,
are you prepared to forgive her? Are you going to forgive her?
Since she has written
become apologized and came to you, knelt down and all of that. Yes. Are you going to apologize? Are you going to forgive her for that?
Apology is two ways. I can forgive her if she's take the same step she took to castigate me for doing nothing.
To reverse what she said.
But she don't want to take it. She had to, including publishing this apology that she wrote.
Okay.
She put it down quite well, but the damage it cost me is in billions.
I understand. I understand.
I lost my $30 million credit line now because of head of syndicate called Chioma Egode.
Okay.
I have witnessed by the husband, witnessed by one Ikedife Jr. That broker, they really begged me, and I want to respect their view. Top of nail people came begging me, please, she did wrong. People that know business. Then these rants that the people that are supporting to be cleaning, people that are supporting her, is not taking. They don't want to hear me out before they judge me, they kill me.
Erisco, we want to thank you for coming. I'm on a lighter mood. I like your attire. You always showing.
I think we should also use this opportunity to plead on her behalf.
And that's why I'm saying, forgive her.
You have shown. You always extend humanitarian gestures to a lot of people, scholarships, and since she has apologized and you are a father, we want to also use this opportunity to, also...
Exactly, ask you to forgive her. Yes. You're making waves.
I will when she complete our own agreement. She can't just go and in the market and say I kill, come back and say, sorry, sir, it can't work.
She should also go back to the channel to say you're not killing. That would be fine.
That's one of the ills of, Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of us...
People post anything they like. They don't know the implication.
Know how to, otherwise the company of Nigeria will pull it down.
Okay.
I want to use this opportunity to plead with Nigerians, and I appeal to them that Erisco is the best product they can buy. However, they should not continue to listen to these people that is pushing this guy to jail. Because he has 14 years to go.
Okay.
He should not complete this thing. I want to also the FCCPA. Where is the evidence against? Where is product number? No batch number. No tin. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Erisco. Once again, Claire, I wanted to debate me from appreciating your attire this morning. Using local products to make your suit and beautiful look. Very.
It's a Kano product.
Kano product.
I must confess, I'm just noting that this is tomato mix.
Yes.
And not the tomato paste.
Yes.
So if you buy the tomato mix, it has sugar in it.
Yes, and
I understand you can use it to cook
to eat bread as you like.
So
it's special. The customer demand me to do that.
You are going to pay for this advert.
Okay, don't worry.
Erisco Mafia.
If you don't kill me,
not kill me. Erisco Mafia.
Dr.
Erisco Mafia is the Chief Executive Officer, Managing Director of Erisco Foods.
Nobody can bring down what he didn't do.
No. He's been in the business for over 40 years, and he's a local producer, and we are glad he is part of us this morning. Thank you, sir, for coming, and continue promoting.
You mean the time is finished?
Yeah, it's finished. And you're a media man. That's why we are in love with you. You know what the media is.
Erisco, we have other very important topics on indigenous manufacturing and how you can key into the 8-point agenda of Mr. President, what needs to be done. And we will re-invite you. Hopefully you will be here, and then we'll have a longer time to have with you. Chief Erisco Foods, thank you very much. And please drop our tomato mix as you step out.
Yes, I want to taste the mix. I appreciate you continue to patronize good thing and support Nigerian to employ more people. I have 3,000 people direct and over 330,000 outside there. If you don't support me to expand, how? Even that the money I make here is not what is making me. I make more money overseas than here. I put subsidy here. So if you close me down, I'm a billionaire forever. What are the people working with me? May God help Nigeria to understand.
On that note, we thank you once again for coming to share this experience with us, Chief Erisco Foods.
Thank you.
All right, our second conversation today, of course, as we said earlier on, is on the United Nations General Assembly, known as UNGA 78. Let's listen to a background report by our correspondent, and when we come back, we will begin our conversation. But before the background report, let's play some commercials. All right, welcome back. And now we know that United Nations General Assembly is probably one of the largest platforms from all countries, both big and small, to gather, of course, to make decisions that would impact the globe, but most especially the pursuit of peace, global peace. So this year, tagged UNGA 78 has come and gone. And of course, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was at that event and made a very remarkable speech. But let's take this background report by our correspondent before we begin our introductions. And it's Ibrahim Dan Amidu.
The 78th United Nations General Assembly brought together world leaders to discuss pressing global challenges and formulate collective solutions. Nigeria, a prominent member of the international community, actively participated in the assembly as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approached the platform with a strong focus on advancing the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. In a turbulent world with divergent opinions on controversial issues, promoting global peace and security was advocated by Nigeria, which is known for her regional influence in Africa. Nigeria also showcased its investment potential and positioning itself as an attractive investment destination. Climate change and environmental sustainability, as well as regional and international partnerships through bilateral and multilateral meetings, were not left out as Nigeria engaged the world proactively. President Tinubu's speech at the General Assembly elucidated Nigeria's agenda as a leading voice within Africa and the international community, where the Federal Republic played a crucial role in shaping the discourse and outcomes of the Assembly, contributing to a more inclusive and sustainable world.
All right, and we have two personalities here this morning to deliberate on this topic. And first, let me welcome the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga. Honorable Minister, it's a pleasure to have you this morning with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and let me also bring in Ambassador Usman Sariki, the former Nigerian Deputy Permanent Rep to the United Nations, the man I call the master when it comes to international relations. So you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Kira. Good morning. Thank you.
All right, Claire.
Yeah. Okay, let me begin with the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. And just to say that some have described this outing as probably one of our best. And I just would like for you to probably give us a review, of our outing and probably outcomes.
Well, thank you very much. As you said, the outing was very good. Some are saying one of our best. The theme of this year's General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly, was rebuilding trust with regards to the Sustainable Development Goals, which, as you know, has to do with ending poverty, food security, and other things that affect mankind as a whole. And incidentally, these are also in tandem with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 8-point agenda, because the first of the 8 points is food security. The second is fighting poverty. And so it goes. Access to capital, inclusivity, growth, job creation. You can talk about fighting corruption, rule of law, and so on and so forth. So you can see the overlap between the Sustainable Development Goals and President Tinubu's agenda, which is why it was important we were out there. It's a platform for multilateralism. You go there, you have a lot of engagements with other countries. It's almost like speed dating, where you have short meetings. It's a platform where countries and world leaders have the opportunity to engage with each other, sometimes size each other up, sometimes revalidate or reinforce existing relationships. And for us, we were able to do that. The president came out with a very, very strong speech. You know, people were commending him for that because he showed leadership. The rest of the world looks towards Nigeria for leadership where Africa is concerned, you know, and we were able to provide that. So let me stop here.
Yes.
I don't know how much time you
No,
have.
no, no. You stop. No, you stop here. We're going to continue with you, you know, because you need to lay a background for this conversation, being the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Yes, it's one of the outings, as you rightly said, that my colleague, you know, alluded to that. There are some specifics in respect to, you know, what transpired at the UNGA this year. President Tinubu pinpointed some items: violent extremism, illicit mining, and preferring by extra-African powers and companies in Africa. And of course, we've just been talking about the coup d'etats in some African countries. And of course, they give reasons, and some of these items, you know, were part of the reasons they gave, even though they're not the best to, it's not in the best of the nation's interest for them to do that. Now, how do we intend to drive all of this, you know, with foreign nations to see how we can, you know, deal with violent extremism in Africa, illicit mining and what have you? And of course, you know, when it comes to illicit mining, it is existing in Nigeria as we speak.
Well, first of all, violent extremism as it exists in Africa tends to happen in cross-border areas where countries overlap. Because naturally, border areas are where criminals tend to go to hide. People engaged in illicit activities tend to gravitate towards border areas where there's an overlap of sovereignty. So it's easier for them to hide so that they can continue their nefarious activities. So it's not by coincidence that Boko Haram, for instance, was operating in a very complex border area where 4 African countries meet: Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, so that they are able to cross from one border to the other when they're being pursued. And that is why it's important to establish the right of pursuit to tackle them. And you could see what Nigeria was able to achieve with the multinational joint task force between these countries. So it's important to use multilateralism to tackle violent extremism and terrorism. And with regards to illicit mining, the same thing. Sometimes you find that, you know, it's around border areas that these sort of activities take place, or they're able to smuggle goods back and forth. And with regards to Nigeria and Africa, there is a heightened interest in metals that provide battery power for electric vehicles and other renewables. For instance, lithium. So there is this strong push to extract the raw materials, take them to other countries, to refine them, and then sell them to the rest of the world, and ultimately even back to Africa. So we are pushing to ensure that these metals are refined here locally. Metals processing is a very key area that President Tinubu is putting his focus on. In fact, there are certain meetings that are going to take place in the coming months with some of the world leaders, where we are seeking to ensure that metals are refined here locally and not just exporting the raw materials and then selling it back to us.
And to add to what you're saying on illicit mining, we know about Zamfara. We know about, as a matter of fact, so many states in this country, in the southwest, southeast, and elsewhere. Just last week, we now knew that there is coal mining in Enugu that has never been had in the last 40 years. That people are mining, and Chinese are there. These are, multinationals that are doing this. So, with the bilateral arrangement that you are talking about, could that be a possibility of stopping those illegal miners? Because mining is not something you're just going to do. You have to have the methodology. You have to have the equipment to do that. So how can a country, some persons will be operating in a country and nobody cares to know why they are there?
You see, we have to be careful when we are evaluating the situation, and you don't want to direct your concerns towards a particular country or a particular race, because we're a peaceful country. This is why Nigeria gets along with so many other countries. So I'm not going to, specify and say this nationality is engaged in that activity, because, in the same vein, there are a lot of Nigerians that are involved in illicit activities as well. So it's not unique to a particular country.
But the preponderance from one nation, of course, is
well, so you can look at illicit crude oil trade, and you can see other nationalities that are there. But and it is not the nation or the people of that country altogether, or the government, but it could be private companies that happen to come from certain countries that are engaged in that.
Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, thank you. Let me also just add one more question. Before I do that, I'll just introduce, while the Honorable Minister was speaking, Dr. Betta Edu, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, stepped into the studios. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Edu.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Honorable Minister, when I read, I was actually going through my phone, to get the exact part of Mr. President's speech that caught my attention, and indeed, I was so happy with it that I had to tweet it, I had to post it, and because it meant a lot, not just to us in Nigeria or low middle-income countries, but also to Africa as a whole. And I want to read it out to you so that you can equally evaluate it in line with the content of Mr. President's speech. It says, "As for Africa, we speak to be neither appendage nor patron. We do not wish to replace," and this is the line for me, "we do not wish to replace old shackles with new ones. Instead, we hope to walk the rich African soil and live under the magnificent African sky, free of wrongs of the past and clear of the associated encumbrances." Very, very instructive.
Absolutely. Very strong statement. He also went on to say, it is not whether Nigeria is open, it is not whether Nigeria is open for business, but whether the rest of the world is ready to engage Nigeria in business on equal and mutually beneficial terms, which is very important, because we keep hearing Nigeria is open for business, Nigeria, no. It goes further than that.
Rhetorics? Is it my rhetorics?
That what? That we're...
Those words,
it's not. You can see that with his actions, the bilaterals that we had. First of all, we had bilaterals with key African countries that are fellow travelers, that are allies to reinforce our standing with them, our relationships with them. We had a bilateral with Angola, we had a bilateral with South Africa, we had a bilateral with Comoros that happens to be current president of the African Union. Of course, we had other bilaterals with the likes of Jordan and so on and so forth. But it's important from that African context to look at that, because Africa is central to our foreign policy and it is enshrined in our constitution. It's one of the if you look at the objectives of our foreign policy, for those who love to say, but Nigeria doesn't have a foreign policy, go back to the constitution, you will find our foreign policy objectives. We also had business engagements, even though this is not a forum for business, but because realizing the sustainable development goals is tied intrinsically to attracting investment, to promoting business and private sector, we had to have those engagements. There was a very large business event that attracted some of the largest endowment funds in America. You know, it did not get as much publicity, but of course it happened because in America, in terms of funding, the endowments are at the very top. Billions, sometimes trillions. When you look at some of these Ivy League schools, Yale, Harvard, and so on and so forth, because they keep getting all these wealthy families and individuals and businesses contributing money to them. They're at the very top. Then you come to investors, you know. Then you come down to pension funds and so on and so. They attended this thing en masse. They were very interested in Nigeria. The Minister of Finance was there. My colleague here was also in attendance. I was also there. And, you know, it reinforced, because they could see that there was a complete departure, change in attitude, and that this administration is committed to policy predictability, secure property rights, and effectiveness of contracts.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, well spoken, well articulated, and that goes to show that the outing was a success, so combining diplomatic issues with the business matters, because I had the opportunity to do that. But I want to recall, before I go to the ambassador, that look, some time ago, and I'm sure you're old enough to know this, that we used to have a litany, you know, of foreign investors. I mean, Volkswagen, Michelin, Mercedes, a great deal of them. But they left this country, and they had reasons for that. Some of them was not even good enough. They just left and went to nearby countries to tell you, look, I'm no longer interested here. I just moved and all of that. And their products are being brought back to Nigeria to buy. Those who were seated in this country as investors. That's a story for another day. But I'm just bringing it in to say, look, we have to go the extra mile, you know, to of course achieve all the things that you people have lined up, you know, for the nation. So that's a good out. Now let's turn to Ambassador Usman Sariki, the former Nigerian Deputy Permanent Rep to UN. Now you watched the entire scenario. Of course, you were also here on one or two occasions, you know, to discuss the outcome of President's outing at UNGA. Now he met President of the EU Commission, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Brazil, South Africa. Now, what kind of economic relations will Nigeria, do you think, you know, would benefit from these nations that the president has, you know, talks on the sideline of the UNGA? With the experience, you know, what can we garner from them in terms of investment and other relations that will be useful to Nigeria's economy?
Thank you very much, Kiri, and good morning. And it's a privilege to be on the same program with two honorable ministers and with two of our foremost anchors, you know, in the NTA. Now, in terms of the engagements of Mr. President in New York, they are part of the normal routine of meetings of heads of state and government. When they go to the United Nations General Assembly, there are things called side events. They participate jointly in side events, or they hold what is called bilateral meetings on request, either by the foreign head of state or our own. So such meetings are normal, they are regular, And they aim first and foremost in reiterating confidence in each other and also exchanging of fraternity in terms of the solidification of relationship between the two countries or entities. They are not necessarily forum for discussion of investment as such. It is important to put investment on the table, but there are other vital issues like sharing of information, sharing of security cooperation, and also agreeing on the agenda of the United Nations on issues like climate change, peace and security, maintenance of international law and order, and other matters. So the essence of such meetings is actually to really restore or reiterate confidence in each other, in expand the bilateral relations between the two countries, and also establish perhaps further milestones in terms of achievement between the two countries. For instance, when I was there, our former presidents, Jonathan and Buhari, they met with the King of Jordan or the representatives of those countries. And the outcome of such meetings was military cooperation and support to our anti-terrorism initiatives. And also in meetings with other countries, issues like education, technical support, and also training of our military and security agencies came up. And in other meetings, cooperation towards strengthening international institutions were discussed. So I don't see the meeting of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's meeting with other heads of state in a different light. They are extension of the opportunity to reiterate the fraternity between the countries and also even to know each other. He is new, in the job, so he needs to know who other heads of state are. And that is an opportunity to get to know you. They sit down over tea, over coffee, to discuss warmly, amicably, to know each other, exchange ideas and information, and to introduce their ministers. I'm sure at such meetings, one or two ministers will sit in. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, it's his prerogative to sit in such meetings, so that he will, Mr. President, introduce, this is my minister. And this engagement now carry the relationship between the countries to another level. So it is very important that we seize opportunities to fraternize between countries and to let our president also have an idea from others who have been more experienced and who have stayed longer in office, for him to get their viewpoints.
Okay, Your Excellency, Ambassador Circuit, let me also ask about the meat of Mr. President's speech and what, we tabled as it affects us, principally as Nigerians, first and foremost. Now, if you look at the part I read out, it touched on different aspects that also connects with the SDGs,
yes,
and also the 8-point agenda. It talked about, rich, free air, African soil, agriculture, climate change, pollution. Also talked about inequality, imperialism or colonialism, as if you may. And then, it looked at also other parts that, he talked about in this speech. What exactly are we saying, and what are we expecting? Because if you look at the UNGA, someone described it as a platform for on equal string bedfellows already.
Well, thank you, Claire. Number one, the UNGA is a very important episode in the relationship between nations. It is the privilege of member states to go and meet, to discuss and highlight issues of global governance, issues of global concern, issues dealing with the Charter of the United Nations, peace and security, sustainable development, human rights, and the promotion of good governance. So these are critical issues that have to be sustained through dialogue continuously, so that the heads of state themselves will now realize that whatever they do at the national level is also or should be commensurate with the expectations at the international level based on the Charter of the United Nations and other instruments that were adopted by member states, remember, because international law in diplomacy is essentially about states. So having said so, Mr. President's remarks are very fundamental in terms of highlighting the ingredients of the matters of the moment. What are the issues today? The issues have been highlighted by the United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, in his opening remarks about the shortcomings, the deficits in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. He said about only 15% or so have been met. The remaining 75% are in deficit. He spoke about the challenges of global change, about insecurity, about the need to establish fairness in global trade and relationship. So if you read through Mr. President's speech, they are a reiteration of the issues of commitment. Member states have to meet commitments made at gatherings, whether they are on climate change or whether they are on peace and security or on sustainable development. These commitments should not be made in vain. They should be made, they should be implemented, they should be realized. So the importance of this speech is that he aggregated a number of issues without specifying them, but he brought them out in a way of an exhortation to the rest of the world, particularly to Africa, to be mindful of those issues, that we cannot continue without paying attention to the challenges that are facing our continent, the challenges of good governance. We are not an island unto ourselves. We cannot live in a state of impunity, in a state of constant flux, constant changes in government without actually establishing a firm foundation for the development of our countries in the future.
All right, Ambassador, you're beautifully spoken. I just hope that people in the right quarters are listening, because this is a total package, if you ask me. Now, let's bring in one of the youngest ministers in the current cabinet of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of Dr. Betta Edu. Betta, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're looking glamorous this morning.
Oh, thank you.
And you know, you have a responsibility, that of course, should I say, affects everyone, including my humble self. We're talking about poverty alleviation. We are talking about humanitarian affairs. Because oftentimes, when we, watch films or videos of humanitarian issues in other countries, we often think, look, it will not come to Nigeria. But of course, we have ours here, localized. And they have not been properly attended to, because we've been here for decades and we monitor the society and what's happening, especially from the governmental level. Now, you have a huge responsibility. Just let Nigerians know, because you are dealing with the lowest level of Nigerians. Just give us an idea of what this UNGA meant to you with respect to sustainable development goals, which is also targeting the lower section of society globally.
I think UNGA was very strategic for me as the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. It was strategic for Nigeria, and the President used every avenue possible to express that call or that action that the world needs to take in support of Nigeria and other African countries. A couple of significant things happened. The first one was the President's engagement with the UN Secretary General, and of course with his own citizen, who is also the Deputy UN Secretary General. At the meeting with the UN Secretary General, the President was very, very clear on how the UN can truly support Nigeria to achieve the SDG, and he called for better engagement with Nigeria. He called for coordinated support. he called for implementation. So the challenges, different challenges with implementation of the UN supports to the country, right? We have situations where persons say we are coming to do X, Y, Z, or we're coming to spend $100 in Nigeria. I'm just giving an example. And then you spend 80 on yourself, your logistics, your actions, and then 20 on actually affecting the lives of people. We have cases where Nigeria is trying to work on maybe security issues or stuff like that, and then you come in with human rights. Those are like really very deep issues, and he was able to very carefully discuss these issues with the UN Secretary General. He equally gave the UN Secretary General a pitch deck from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. We have 133 multidimensionally poor persons in our country. We have 16 million people who are affected by humanitarian crisis, directly or indirectly, in our country. The climate change and its effect on poverty, its effect on humanitarian crisis. So we're seeing more flooding every other day, which is, of course, leading to humanitarian situations that need response and intervention. And this is further throwing a lot of persons below the poverty line. The drying up of the Lake Chad Basin and several other things, including the entire issues that are really connected to climate change, that's affecting livelihood, affecting job security, and then pushing more people into poverty. And this poverty is pushing them to become gullible, of course, to any other thing, like if they're invited to join groups, bandits,
social vices
in the entire country, right? He was truly calling for the UN commitment to supporting Nigeria to put an end to all of this so that we can meet the SDG goal for 2030. Another very strategic engagement for me was the engagement which the Minister for Foreign Affairs has spoken about. He met with the business community. He met with the international community. He met with those who could help build our economy and expand the envelope, create jobs for Nigerians, create a lot of opportunities in our country, and help stabilize things. These are all targeted towards poverty eradication. Remember that part of his agenda, he has an 8-point agenda. One of it is actually to see how we can end poverty, which is in line with SDG Goal 1. Another very important one is the food security, right, which is in line with SDG Goal 2, to see how we can end hunger, zero hunger. So all of his agendas are really interrelated and aligned with the SDG. And he was very clear when he was putting this out to the key authorities, bringing them into the room, interacting with them, and seeing how they can come in truly, in all sincerity, to support Nigeria and, of course, Africa.
You know, I'm going to use your words. I'm going to really use your words because I like them. We need help. We have a lot in our hands. Time is of essence. Those are your words. Different for her. You know, each time you granted interview, you were very emphatic about that. And I want to believe that UNGA, you know, would probably provide a platform, you know, for prospects for such help.
Sure.
Did it come?
So we had a whole lot to really get out of the hunger. It gave us an opportunity to meet with the UN Secretary General, the Deputy UN Secretary General, heads of all the UN agencies. We had those meetings. And
any commitment? Yes.
All of them committed to supporting Nigeria. And what I can clearly tell you is that since I arrived in Nigeria, their team on ground here in Nigeria have been to my office not once, not twice, several times. Today, we would be equally making some announcements later in the day, and this is also linked to some of the meetings which we had at UNGA. So Nigerians will be getting a good amount of money in their accounts. This is over 15 million households, which amounts to about 61 million persons, to help them in terms of providing that social safety net for them, ensuring that they can carry out small businesses, amongst other things. And in this same month of October, we equally will be rolling out the loans to 1.5 million Nigerians who are expected to be beneficiaries.
What kind of help? Because humanitarian, your ministry is quite.
So,
you have a lot in your hands.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is more on the poverty alleviation angle and providing a social safety net for Nigerians, and of course on the humanitarian angle, we're working with the UN OCHA. We met with them, the head of humanitarian and relief services in the United Nations, who is the UN Under Secretary General, Martin Graffi. We met with him, and he has put his boots on ground in Nigeria already. His team, they have been working with us to see how we can address the humanitarian crisis in a more durable way, so we can provide durable solutions for them. That's ongoing on one side. And then on the poverty alleviation angle, providing social safety nets for over 61 million Nigerians.
In kind or in cash?
But
well,
no, I didn't hear you.
You said both. Well, it's a win-win thing, you know. It's a win-win thing. You know, you are getting a relief from somewhere else, so whatever comes to you, you take. You know, you don't. You know, we say that when they, how do we put it? When you know, what you want is not available, what is available becomes your choice, you know, so you can get on. Thank you indeed, you know. You rightly said that the country has a multinational or multi-dimensional poor people, right, which means you have to address it in a multi-dimensional way as well,
yes,
to be able to determine who gets what, when and how, and stuff like that. Thank you indeed. It's a good opening, you know, for your office, because of course already you're having international connections, you know, and all of that. They've been there before, but perhaps not ignited as much as you have done now.
And not coordinated.
Exactly. Good, great. All right, now let me return to the Minister, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga. You know, we have issues here with security. You are talking about investment, meetings that we had, a very profitable one as well. But then down here, we have issues with security, you know, banditry, which is even relatively new to Nigerians. We've been talking about Boko Haram and there are other sects, you know, who are fighting Nigeria for over a decade now. And for you to invest in Nigeria, there has to be an environment for that. Now, in some of your, you know, bilateral meetings, you know, are you talking about assisting Nigeria in that direction? That's number one, because some nations are also being fingered as to, you know, fueling what is happening in Africa, especially, you know, banditry, terrorism, and what have you. Because the coup plotters in those other nations are saying that, I'm not saying they are right, but these are military guys who are in the field and they know what is going on, especially when it comes to the issue of insecurity and terrorism on the African continent. So are we going towards that? And the recharging of Lake Chad has been an issue for decades now. Are we looking into those directions to see how we can, you know, get things fixed up for people to even believe in Nigeria?
Absolutely. Just like Ambassador Usman Sariki alluded, you know, some of these meetings have to do with security and defense. He mentioned Jordan. We also met with the King of Jordan on the margins of UNGA, for instance. But our relationship goes beyond just security with Jordan. But let me say that the lasting solution to building capacity with regards to defense and security is for us to be able to produce the necessary equipment that we require here in country, both kinetic and non-kinetic, and that's the president's approach. He does not like the idea of us buying weapons from outside endlessly, and he is you know, doing a cost-benefit analysis as well. He is looking at, you know, prioritizing. Do we put money in humanitarian affairs, or do we just go and buy bullets? You know, and you have to also bear in mind that for all intents and purposes, Boko Haram has been massively degraded in terms of capacity. They are surrendering in hordes. In fact, part of the problem we have now is how to handle those that are surrendering. You know, and we're talking about de-radicalization and processing them, knowing who was a captive of Boko Haram, who was a fighter who has truly changed his mind, and so on and so forth. So this is what we're dealing with. With regards to banditry, particularly in the northwest, this is where we need cooperation with our neighbors, and this is why it is important. It is very important that we support democratic governments in our neighborhood. Because, to be honest, when you have military takeovers in such countries, chances are the military turn their guns on each other instead of the terrorists, because they all want to secure the capital. Everybody is trying to grab power, and you can see the trend. It doesn't just stop with one coup. Then there's a counter coup. Then it's I mean, we've seen it in this country, the way it goes. So the key issue here is sustainability. We're talking about sustainable development goals, right? So in countries like Nigeria that I wouldn't say we're rich, we're wealthy in terms of resources, okay? Oil, these metals, gold, and so on and so forth. Gas, you know, we're a gas zone with a bit of oil in it even. For us to go from having that wealth, naturally endowed resources, to prosperity, which is, for me, the sustainability we're looking for, you need to have private sector, you need to have business, you need the people to be able to make business cases, see the opportunities, there's profit, and then naturally it becomes sustainable. It's not just enough to have these interventions or donations, overseas development assistance. Yes, we may need it in the short term to address, you know, excruciating poverty, but for it to become sustainable, you need to create that environment. The only way you can create that environment so far in all the systems of government that mankind has developed to date, there's none better than democracy, because it is that democracy that provides that legitimacy, that gives confidence for businesses to invest, and for people also to subsist, to trade with each other, which is what brought about the creation of Nigeria itself. The people around the confluence of the two great rivers, Niger and Benue, are the ones that came together and ended up in this country, Nigeria. That's why we have market days all over, where people go from market day to market day. And that is how it becomes sustainable.
Honorable Minister, I do share your optimism, you know, of course, that democracy is the best, you know, still the best form of government, but there are other countries that, you know, have argued, you know, contrary, and we all know about that.
Yeah, but they still go back to what I'm talking about business thriving. Even those that have not officially declared democracy, they have provided
some form of
yes,
I agree.
There has to be that credibility, and it goes back to democracy.
Absolutely.
In fact, even the communist countries will tell you that it is the finest form of democracy.
Okay,
that's what they say.
Ambassador,
communism is. Yeah. It's an
ideal. Yes, Ambassador Seke, let's have your opinion on, you know, a particular point being raised by, you know, a number of Nigerians. The argument has been made that this is the 78th session of UNGA, trying to galvanize global peace. But of course, we know that there's been progress, but within the past, you know, few years, that progress, you know, seemed to have been eroded by, of course, you know, events around us, military, the resurgence of military coups and all that. But coming back to Nigeria, is it too early to begin to talk about tangible outcomes in specific areas, climate change, for instance, you know, from, you know, world bodies, making their own commitment, you know, redeeming their own pledges and helping Africa and countries that are, you know, impacting minimally to the climate to survive? Is it also possible for us to begin to, you know, put benchmarks, you know, to what we expect in the area of trade inequality, in the area of technology transfer?
Well, thank you very much. International relations basically is based on advocacy and engagement. And these things have to continue. Whether you reach the benchmark or not, you have to continue engaging. That's why you appoint foreign ministers. That's why you appoint ambassadors and so forth. So this engagement will cascade eventually into results. And where the expected results are not actually met, you create the dynamics at the national level to improve your own condition. So in regards to climate change, for instance, there is this decision at COP27, I think, in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh. I think when this idea of loss and damage, proposal was adopted, whereby $100 billion, Honourable Minister, you can confirm, was actually agreed to be paid to countries in order to compensate them for loss in terms of sustained damages to the environment and sudden catastrophes that's happening. So this is not being made. So African countries gathered in Nairobi, I think last month, to have the Africa Climate Summit, and the loss and damage proposal came up, 100 billion. So I agree with you, commitments are not being met. And that was the concern expressed by the Secretary General of the United Nations, and also by our President, if you go through the speech, where he reiterated that, in essence, when we say something, we should mean it, and then we should do it. And that is the basis of this engagement that we are creating at the multilateral level. In terms of peace and security, a lot depends on the way we organize our own internal governance and internal security architecture. Anything coming from outside will be simply complementary to support and to supplement what we have done internally. So it is the responsibility of our own governments to really carefully structure the basis on which our security doctrines will be implemented. And I think this goes a long way in terms of creating multiplicity of agencies, like humanitarian agencies, to deal with the soft and tangible challenges confronting people in order to create conditions for peace in communities. And you have the ministries, for instance, of industry and mining, and so to create employment. So the aggregate action of ministries and state governments and local governments will conduce towards creating a situation where harmony will prevail in societies.
Okay. All right. Good one. Let's return to the Honorable Minister of Foreign Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. Listening to you, your opening comments, you made mention the fact that we are now being expectant when it comes to foreign assistance with respect to, addressing humanitarian issues and poverty alleviation. And then I want to ask you if you have any indigenous blueprint that you have, in addition to what we're expecting, to design a method to approach poverty alleviation in Nigeria by engaging directly or indirectly those affected. How do you intend to do that? I know that NEMA, for instance, may not be under your purview, in terms of structuring of NEMA, but that's an instrument that you need when it comes to humanitarian issues. Flood has now become an annual ritual in Nigeria, unavoidable. And I want to believe that you also have plans, to address it on an annual basis. Because when the agencies responsible, when they reel out, the predictions and all of that, we tend to ignore them. But then when the rains come, we begin to rush and bring about a fire brigade approach to that. Do you have such arrangements, in terms of how you intend to operate? You are new in this system, but I also know that you are very articulate. So what have you been doing in this direction?
Just please, just take this along with you, because I know you want to, we'll soon let you go. Do you also have framework for collating, the assistance and support that you're getting emanating from UNGA?
Okay, so I'll put it this way. First and foremost, we don't operate in silos. So NEMA and the rest of them are part of the humanitarian coordinating framework to respond to humanitarian issues in Nigeria. And by that, they are working with the ministry to be able to address humanitarian crisis that might exist. So, in quote and unquote, they're under coordination. That's number one. The second point is that we have several policies and frameworks we use to address those emergencies and, of course, respond effectively to it. Nigeria has the flood response plan, which is a document that has been approved by the Federal Executive Council that is used to respond to flood and other emergencies. So we equally have several other action plans. But within the first 3 weeks of my assumption of office, we prepared, I want to call it a pitch deck, but it's more like a robust framework to help us address the two pillars of the ministry, humanitarian issues and poverty alleviation. And we brought a lot of stakeholders into the room. A lot of innovations are on the table, and one of them is the Presidential Poverty and the Presidential Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation Trust Fund. And this is kind of like a basket of funds which is supposed to attract 30% from government, which will be putting a skin in the game, and then the other 70% is supposed to come from the donor agencies and development partners, private sector, philanthropic individuals, like he said, endowment funds from different nations and several other things. They make up the 70%. And this structure is built with a transparent governance system and control system that can give these international bodies the confidence to put their money in this basket of fund and then have that central coordination and control in terms of response to humanitarian activities and poverty alleviation. Finally, like you asked, those who are supporting us from UNGA, like we said, there's been a lot going on. The impact of this may not be as much as the investment that has been done. And it's because there's poor coordination, there are duplication of activities, so 10 different bodies will go to the same place to do the same thing and end up doing nothing. Right? And you see wastage, you see very little results for so much input. The outcome is really very little. All of this are going to come to a halt. We are going to approach it in a more coordinated manner, and we will be providing durable solutions. Like I told the on the Secretary General for the United Nations, I said we need to be truthful to ourselves. If we have a humanitarian crisis right now, we come in to intervene as though it's going to end in the next 1 month or in the next 3 weeks, and then everything will be over and people will go back to their normal lives and life continues.
Like
but
COVID.
That's not the truth.
Like the structures for COVID.
Exactly. That's not the truth. We need more durable solutions. Some people have been displaced for over 9 years. Let me put state, for instance, in the northeast, right? In Borno, in several other places. They have been displaced for over 9 years now, right? So when you come and you build one tarpaulin structure for them to live in, are they going to stay there for 9 years?
How are you going to grapple with the issue of implementation? Because we have never been lacking in terms of documentation or articulation of ideas. But where we have failed, almost in all ramifications, if you ask me, is in the fact that, look, when we begin to implement, at some point, the implementation stops. We don't get to, achieve the objective. It has happened several times, decades and decades, in sectors of the economy, many sectors of the economy. So now, how do you intend, because you are dealing with human beings now, how do you intend
for me, my business is not with sitting down in the office and writing long policies and writing long stories here and there. My business is to go to the field and ensure that implementation works at all costs. That's the instruction of Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He wants to see results. It's on a timely basis. It's urgent, like I usually say, right? And I have told the entire team, we have told everybody to deploy to the field where the poor people are from the grassroots. We are creating 774 hubs, that's humanitarian hub, one in each local government area of the country. And this is to bring the services, the impact, the monitoring and evaluation everything closest to the people as possible.
Would you like to have a data of poor people in Nigeria? Is there a possibility?
We have a data already, and we're expanding on this data. We're doing the verification. We're flagging off the verification today, and we're expanding it. So presently we have about 15.7 million persons on our National Social Register. It's a data that has different variables expressing the multidimensional poverty which I talked about and categorizing persons. Now we want to double this data to have at least, which of course equates to 61 or 62 million individuals. Now we want to double this to at least 30 million households and 160 million individuals.
All right, Dr. Betta Edu, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, we're glad to have you on our program Good Morning Nigeria today to share your perspectives. I'll be having you in a short while also on my individual program, so I will probably continue there. Let me also appreciate the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us for this conversation. And Ambassador Usman Seki, who is the former Nigerian Deputy Permanent Secretary to the United Nations. We would like to thank you, sir, for joining us. All right, let's now take you to the world of sports for the latest.
Nigeria's Falconets have qualified for the third round of the 2024 Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers, according to the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF). On their Twitter handle, the Falconets' second-round opponent, Mauritius, have withdrawn. The first leg was initially scheduled to host next week in Mauritius. Two teams will represent Africa at the 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in Colombia. Meanwhile, the Nigerian football governing body have retained the services of Christopher Danjuma as the head coach of the women's under-20 team. The decision comes after Danjuma and other applicants underwent a screening and interview exercise by the Federation's technical committee. Also, Napoli said they never meant to offend or mock Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen in a social media post, but stopped short of publicly apologizing to him. The club shared a video on their Twitter account of Nigeria's Osimhen missing a penalty. A Napoli statement said it was never the club's intent to offend Osimhen should he have perceived it that way.
Yeah, well, that's it for us today. I want to thank you for sharing your time with us. I'll do that again on Monday when we return with a fresh edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Always a place to be every morning. I am Kirian Umar. Have a good weekend.
And I should add Kirian, the chief, the untitled chief. All right, let me also wish you a pleasant weekend. And don't forget to join our campaign against rape and rapists. From all the GMN crew, I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Have a pleasant weekend. Bye-bye.